subprimeness, bubble vision, rapacious greed, merchants of debt, ethically impaired. The emperor has no clothes. Market artificial insemination. Free money, Goldilocks, a fairy tale. Are you ready?
Quist. I'm your erudite pundit. I bet you never knew or met one of those before. I'm here today to talk about the mother of all bailouts. You know, it's been in the news, it concerns everybody, that people don't understand what's going on, and of course there's a tremendous amount of fear. But what I want to do today is take some of these headlines that have grasped everybody's attention and talk about how these headlines will impact you, your business, your retirement, your savings, and so forth. Let's start with AIG. Most of you have never heard of this company before until the last 2 weeks, but it's one of the largest insurance companies in the world. Has very profitable insurance operations all over the world. It's a $250 billion market cap company. Why suddenly would this company have financial problems and be on the verge of bankruptcy? Well, AIG participated, like the hedge funds and Wall Street investment banks, in a high casino game called the derivatives. These are high-risk bets that it's a paper menagerie that's been built up over the years. Somewhere in the neighborhood, it's estimated to be $300 to $400 trillion. It's just completely out of control. These companies thought that they could make unlimited gains and have a downside risk by insuring their loss against, or insuring against their loss with these counterparties. If somebody didn't perform on a paper contract, they would simply call on AIG or another investment bank to make good on the contract. Well, when Bear Stearns folded, and when the dominant, I called it in my book, I called it the daisy chain of all these derivatives. And when one company failed, then they'd go to seek reimbursement from the insurance company or AIG or someone else. And the dominoes kept on pyramiding, and AIG didn't have sufficient funds to meet all these claims. So this is basically what's happened throughout the entire industry. It's more than just the subprime market. It's a lot more than that. Who was the number one defender of this scheme, this pyramid scheme in effect? None other than the former Fed chairman, Alan Greenspan. He testified in Congress a number of years ago that these derivative ventures could not be regulated by the federal government. And then Senator Phil Gramm, a Republican from Texas, slipped an amendment to the appropriations bill in 1999, which prohibited, by law, prohibited the federal government or any agency from regulating or supervising the derivative market. So that's what gave the green light to all Wall Street and all these firms to operate without any chance of being regulated. And of course, that's what's brought us to this point. You've also heard that there's been a run on money market funds. Here, the most secure investment, the most liquid investment, it should be invested in government treasury bills. And suddenly there's a run on, that's the reserve primary fund and maybe others, over $100 billion in a matter of days. It just happens that these money managers decided to invest in corporate IOUs like Lehman Brothers. And of course, when Lehman Brothers filed bankruptcy, these notes, these unsecured notes, were worthless. So that's what's created this panic in the money market funds. Of course, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, you know, the evil twins, first and foremost in everybody's minds. Here was two government-sponsored enterprises that were dedicated to developing home residential mortgages for all of America, and we find out their mission was something else. Their mission was to take care of the good old boys club and make sure that everybody got compensated or overcompensated, and it was poorly managed, mismanaged, there was fraud, there was corruption. I saw this 4 years ago. I called them the evil twins, and people didn't understand what the heck I was talking about. We've also learned that the FDIC, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, has been bailing out depositors at banks. They're out of money, and they have to borrow from the Treasury. And the Federal Reserve itself, which has never been audited, don't know what assets they have, but they admit that they have to borrow now from the Treasury. Bottom line for this whole thing is that, in my opinion, what we're experiencing here is, in this massive bailout, is the beginning of the end of the global fiat paper money system. This huge leverage bets are beginning to come down on top of us. And what we risk, of course, and what's happening is that Secretary of the Treasury Henry Paulson and Bernanke, the Fed chairman, are telling us that if we don't do this bailout, the whole markets are going to collapse. Here we're transferring power to these guys to make all these decisions, and they're the ones that put us in this spot in the first place, but either by their action or their inaction. And we do run the risk of a cataclysmic depression similar to the 30s. And they leave us no choice, and all of us have to just fend for ourselves, and based upon decisions made at the top. But as I said earlier, and I stated to you in my first recording, and you see in my book and in my blogs, I'm forecasting a boom ahead. Now, you're going to think this old guy is nuts, but out of every financial crisis, very similar to this, you'll see an economic boom, an inflationary boom, and even an hyperinflationary boom. And that's what I'm calling for. And you'll be able to read about it in my blogs, but this is a very important concept. The worse things get, the more likelihood there is for a hyperinflationary environment, because they're creating all this money out of thin air. And that's going to be infused into our financial system, and inflation is a monetary phenomenon, and don't forget that. And what we're experiencing now is the greatest monetary implosion in our history. I'm forecasting this boom ahead, and I want you to follow it and get my book. Go to my blogs, because I've written about the Mother of All Bailouts, and listen. You'll be able to, we're going to put my radio program on the blog that you can listen to, that I'm going to start October 6th. So until next time, this is H.L. Quist, your favorite erudite pundit, signing off. Thank you very much.